Here.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public comment. This is time and place for the general public to address the Board of Trustees. State law prohibits the board from acting on any issue not on the agenda because there are time limits imposed. Neither the board nor the superintendent answers questions or respond to statements made during public comment. I would ask the board if we could waiver the limit to 3 minutes per person and the public input for each item to 20 minutes due to the volume of item. Is there any objection to that? Okay. Then everybody has requested to speak already, or do we have any others other than what I have up here? All okay. Then we'll proceed.
Comment number 1. Melissa May, community member. I would like to submit a public comment regarding the timeline for the school board's redistricting plan and committee formation. What is the timeline looking for this? When will you be holding public hearings? End of comment 1. Comment 2, Stephen May, community member. What is the proposed timeline for the MVSD redistricting process? End of comment 2. Comment 3, Jill Lopez, parent. I'm a parent of an MVSD student, and it's been heartbreaking to participate in distance learning for this entire school year. My student is suffering and now has a really poor foundation of school experience to try to build from. Our family is suffering as well, trying to accommodate learning from home with 2 full-time jobs, other children in the home who need us, and our existing responsibilities as well. The quality of the education our child is receiving is far below expectations. Students in younger grades need to be doing in-person school. It's beyond frustrating to see private schools that have been open all year to also see that at this time, so many surrounding county districts planning reopenings. It seems like our district isn't trying to comply with the safe reopening requirements, preferring to keep our students home. It is not the right decision, especially for our youngest students. End of comment 3. Comment 4, Bridget Viz, parent. Do not jeopardize our students' education because you don't feel like it is safe enough for your child. Our kids are not getting the full education they deserve. If you don't feel safe, then the school should provide those parents with an option for home instruction. Please allow the rest of our children to enter a hybrid model of education. The rest of the country is moving forward with in-person instruction. I don't understand why we're falling behind in California. End of comment 4. Comment 5, Roseanne Morales, parent. I'm a mother of 2 boys at Creekview Elementary. I heard that neighboring schools are opening and would like the opportunity for my children to attend in person. I feel like my boys need the social interaction and my younger son gets headaches due to screen time. Children need socializing to learning and grow just as much as they need academics. Thank you for hearing my thoughts. End of comment 5. Comment 6, Debbie Katie, parent. My name is Deborah Katie. I'm the mother of 7 children. 3 of those children attended Ranch View, Mountain View, and Grace Yoakley in your district, and subsequently graduated from Colony High School. Currently, I have 4 children that attend Mountain View Elementary, 2 in 4th grade, 1 in 3rd grade, and 1 in kindergarten. I work at Pomona Valley Hospital as a registered respiratory therapist. I'm writing to voice my concerns over the reopening of our schools. I'm acutely aware of the impact that COVID-19 has had in our community and the world at large. I watched our hospital add over 200 new beds to our facility almost overnight to handle the surge of patients after Christmas, transforming waiting areas, storage closets, boardrooms, and many other areas of our hospital into patient care areas and ICU units. The amount of equipment, supplies, and PPE required to handle that surge was secured almost immediately. Regular staff, including myself, worked an insane amount of hours with an insane amount of additional responsibilities, along with travelers hired on from agencies. Our hospital pulled together and overcame what now, looking back, seems like an insurmountable task, but we did it. And through excellent teamwork, leadership, and communication, we gave everything we had for our community. I write this not to brag, but to add some context to the rest of my letter. Our schools have been closed for a year now, and we've been doing distance learning for a year. Hardworking parents have been adapting their home lives to accommodate their children. I personally have transformed a section of my home into a classroom, complete with 4 desks divided into partitions to reduce distractions, all set up to provide my children with the best environment possible in my home. And it isn't enough. Their teachers are providing them with the best Zoom experience that they can provide, and isn't enough. They are given multiple programs to supplement their learning, like iReady and Epic, and it isn't enough. I sit half asleep after working a 12-hour shift next to them to keep them on task during school, and it isn't enough. We are doing everything we can, but nothing can replace the classroom. Our children need to go back to school. We are now in the red zone, consistent with the July 17th framework. Schools may reopen at all grades if they're located in counties in the red, orange, or yellow tiers. The last available numbers on the county website are from 2/7/21 to 2/13/21 and indicate our weekly case rate has dropped to 7.36%, putting us in the red tier. Schools that reopen must complete and post a COVID-19 safety plan, as well as COVID-19 prevention program to their website homepage, which I'm pleased to see has happened. It is my understanding that our district has received funds in excess of $3 million, and additional PPE has been provided to help with the reopening of our schools. Understanding that the board has approved a plan and all necessary requirements have been met, I expect that our schools should be opening soon. According to the PDF cited, Consolidated Schools Guidance PDF, california.gov, schools have a 3-week period to open starting the day the county meets the criteria for reopening, even if the county stops meeting the criteria during that window. That would mean March 1st would be the 3rd week. Why aren't we opening? Why aren't we reopening? Why hasn't the district informed us of the process? Why didn't they notify us of the additional funding we are receiving? Why weren't we informed of the new criteria and guidelines that were put out and the fact that a district applied for an approved plan to go back? The communication has been silenced. We have not heard anything about what the school is doing to get our children back to the classroom. That is unacceptable. The board serves the community. The schools serve the community. The community works hard to contribute our tax dollars to schools. We deserve to have a voice. We deserve some communication, and we deserve to see our students return to school to utilize the $3 million additional dollars in funding allocated to them for that purpose. Healthcare workers, police officers, grocery store clerks, and many others have worked the front lines since the start of this pandemic for their community. They have risen to the challenge and overcome insurmountable odds at the highest risk. School teachers in our district have now been vaccinated and are working in the population of least risk. I expect the districts to now step up to the plate and serve the community the way the community has served them. Please do the right thing and send our children back to school today, not after spring break. You have had a year to prepare. If Pomona Valley can add 200+ beds overnight, you can send back 200+ students to school after a year of planning. End of comment. Comment 6, Crystal Stevens comment, will SDC students be back on campus full days 8 to 2:30 p.m. when school is resumed back on campus? End of comment. Comment 7, Miriam Lakamari, parent. I was just informed of the decision that will be made soon in regards to reopening the schools. My son and daughter attended Ranch View Elementary. I was given your email to send my questions of concern to you. My daughter is in kindergarten and suffers from severe social anxiety. It was hard on her to adjust to virtual school, but has such an amazing teacher that has helped her a lot to cope with her anxiety and has come a very long way. I don't think it'll be beneficial for her to be thrown into a classroom setting so soon for such a small period of time, seeing how school is over in a few weeks. It will especially set her back tremendously if teachers get shuffled around and my daughter ends up in a different class with a different teacher and different classmates. It doesn't make any sense to reopen schools now so late in the school year. We should wait until the new school year begins in August. But if there is no possible way to wait, then we should have options on hybrid class to help transition kids slowly into classroom settings. Maybe attend school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and do virtual school Tuesday and Thursday to ease them into it first. Thank you for your time and understanding. End of comments. Comment 8, Nick Stewart, parent. Members of the board, I commend Mountain View School District's commitment to our children. My son is a second grade student at Ranch View Elementary. I have been a proponent of the district and the fine work that it has done for the students. After witnessing a fair share of debacles in the school districts in Los Angeles County, I believe that MVSD is a guiding light that should serve as an example of great public education. Now that the pandemic is winding down, vaccines have been readily available to wide segments of the population, and the combination of knowledge and common sense can be applied to best practices. I welcome and support the decision for our children to return to in-person learning. The CDC published a report on January 29th, 2021. In the report, authored by Amy Falk, MD, Allison Benda, Peter Falk, OD, Sarah Steffen, MMP, Zachary Wallace, Tracy Beth Hoag, MD, PhD, they detailed several factors as to why K-12 schools could operate normally, given the safety factors are in place. It is a great relief to see the board, management, teachers, and the support staff at MVSD look beyond any politics at play and continue to provide a great education for my son, as well as other children in the district by returning to in-person learning. Despite the necessity for future virtual learning to understanding the coronavirus and developing the tools to fight it, there has been a noticeable deterioration in the development of our children. I can say in a very selfish manner that I do not like remote learning and welcome the return to in-person learning. I believe that children need in-person learning in order to grow and develop. I am proud to be the parent of an MVSD student. Thank you for making the education of my child a top priority and fast-tracking the return to in-person learning. Thank you for your time. End of comment. Comment 9, Brenda Wilthy, parent. Good evening, board members. My name is Brenda Wilthy. I have 2 children who attend Creekview Elementary. I'm writing today to express my concerns on reopening the school for in-person learning. I am, as some of you, if not all of you are aware, fully on board with reopening the schools for our children to return to in-person learning versus virtual. I truly believe that while shutting the schools down was in no way your decision during the beginning of the pandemic, however, it is your decision now to have it open as it should. This has affected many aspects of many people's lives, and I couldn't imagine how difficult it has been on some families, and I don't know how hard it has been, but I do on my family. My children have morphed into little souls I'm starting to not recognize. Seeing that is completely hard for me. I try to have some kind of normalcy for them, but it's obviously not the same when they don't and haven't been in their daily routine of regular school life in almost a full year. My children need that in-person communication they get from teachers, staff members, and other children. My children thrive and learn off of others through interacting with one another, and they simply are not getting that behind a computer screen. My kids deserve better, far better than the anxiety and psychological damage they are feeling. Online instruction lacks the magic of in-class instruction. We all know that. The school district administration has magically come up with the plan they feel will be best suited for our children in the district, whether it was forced, which I personally think it was, or because us parents are finally speaking out about how we want the schools open. It's a plan that I can agree to for the rest of the year. I just want to say that I have been a huge supporter of my kids' personal elementary school. I love the teachers and the staff throughout the campus. I've been there multiple times a week to volunteer at the school in my kids' classes and classes that my kids aren't in because I value the teacher's time and want to take off any kind of load I can as a parent so they can focus on what's important to them teaching. I know that they have done the best they could do given the lack of direction from their superiors, and I give them my full support however this all turns out. Please just agree to open the campus for all schools. Give these kids something to look forward to, something to be excited about. I know that there are challenges to reopening the school because the guidelines given to the district to follow, but I have full faith that it can be done. Thank you for your time and continuing to serve our students and parents within the district. End of comment. Comment 10, Mario Robles, parent. I'm a parent of a 6th grader and 8th grader who's reaching out like many other parents, I'm sure, about the reopening of schools. I would like to know when our district is planning to reopen now that we have the CDC, government officials, and doctors across the country stating it's safe for children to go back to school. My children are having a difficult time with virtual learning, and seeing their decline and disinterest in the school curriculum is disheartening. Please reconsider your position and open up already safely, of course, and in following all measures and safety guidelines that many of us are now following as essential workers. Thank you for your time. End of comment. Comment 11, Jonathan Valenzuela, parent. I would like to request a voice to speak at the next board meeting. I'm a Mountain View parent and recently received the survey for the return to school options. I'm disappointed that there were only 2 options and no options to leave our opinions. I don't think those are both great options. I felt like I was just picking the lesser of 2 evils. I think they are skewed. I think the higher grade levels can have simultaneous learning with online and in person. Your current proposal has in-person learning in the morning with independent learning in the afternoon for the kids that opt to not return to school. I have a true question for this board. How much learning do you think a child will actually have when starting your instruction at 1 p.m.? As educators, statistics help drive your focus, and as I'm sure you are aware, 1 p.m. is not a very productive time. I think online Zoom education should be in the morning, with independent being in the afternoon, and in-person should be simultaneous for grades that do not require so much redirection, such as 4th grade and up. Also, we've gone for a year on this schedule, and now your board wants to implement this 2.5 months before the end of the academic year. What will be the measure of success? Will the educational success story of my 11-year-old be how well she can adjust to another curveball in the pandemic 2 months before summer? Why are you reinventing the wheel? This wheel has been rolling with Zoom in the morning with independence in the afternoon. Keep it that way. And if in-person is done, make that in the afternoon. I assure you this would keep with the anticipated rate of return. Either way, my child will not return. What's the point? No recess, no lunch, no real socialization. Better to end the year as it started and then start fresh next year when there's no rush to implement something drastic due to reduction of pandemic. Please reconsider. End of comment. Comment 12, Lupe White, grandparent, Ranch View School. Gentle persons, how are the issues of social and emotional impact on our children going to be addressed once they start in-person learning? End of comment. Comment 13, Laura Chaudy, parent. Members of Mountain View School District Board, what is the general point of view of the teachers and their supporting staff regarding bringing our younger children, TK, kindergarten, and special education, back to school versus the older children who are more likely to understand face covering and social distance? Thank you. End of comment. Comment 14, June Hayes, Stephanie Churchill Lance, Barrett Lovato, Amanda Simonian, Sean Mahaley, and Jennifer Konechny, teachers at MVSD. Good evening, Dr. Moss and members of the MVSD Board of Trustees. We would like to propose an alternative time schedule to the currently proposed in-person virtual models. We would like to keep the virtual model in the morning and have in-person instruction in the afternoon for the following reasons. 1, the families who are happy with the current setup will be able to stay the course with the fewest disruptions. This would maintain much needed routines and provide stability for the children and their families. The families who are choosing to change their model will still be able to do so. 2, this will provide a safer virtual teaching environment for our teachers. With the currently proposed schedule with in-person in the morning, we will be removing our masks to teach virtually in the afternoon in a classroom that's been occupied by a group of students, many of whom will have difficulty maintaining the mask requirement for 3 hours. There will be no time for the classrooms to be sanitized or for air to be purified, recirculated before we unmask to teach online. Moving in-person to the afternoon would provide time for the classrooms to be cleaned and the air to be purified, recirculated overnight before we're required to come back to teach virtually in the morning. In an article published by the CDC on 2/9/21, the following was recommended to reduce the spread of COVID-19. In non-residential settings, consider running the HVAC system at maximum outside airflow for 2 hours before and after the building is occupied. Link is attached. We are grateful for all you've done to help us secure vaccinations in order to be safer for our students and to more confidently return to the classroom. We hope you will consider this simple schedule change that will provide our district's teachers with an additional layer of safety as we welcome back the children of our district. End of comment. Comment 15, Joylyn Turgian. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Joylyn Turgian, and I'm a parent of 4 children, 2 of which are students at Mountain View Elementary and 1 at Live Oak. I am a mother, student, and business owner who's writing you today to voice my concerns on needing our schools to open. Everyone has seen the effects that COVID-19 has had. As a business owner, my husband and I were forced to close our small business until the county deemed it safe to open. We worked tirelessly to make changes to our everyday operation to ensure once being allowed to open, we could do so right away and not waste any more time. We implemented cleaning, passenger spacing, and right away and safety glass all within days to allow us to continue to run. We did this because it was necessary to do so for the well-being of our family and customers. Schools should have been the changes necessary months ago to ensure that our students could return as soon as they were able, like parents were promised. Yet we are 2 weeks in from being allowed to open, and admin is still saying that we aren't ready. Why? Business, clinics, and restaurants have all risen to the challenge, and so do our schools. Our districts has received all essential funding and equipment needed to open, so why wait? Our children's education is essential. Schools have been closed for a year now, and we have worked tirelessly to allow our children to get a wholesome education in light of being at home. My husband and I reworked our home, creating space in our children's rooms for a quiet place to allow them to focus and put their best foot forward in their studies. I cut back on my units for school to ensure that I was readily available for any issues my kids may have while in school and afterwards. It has been a year. From bad connections, teachers getting kicked out of Zoom, students unable to ask questions and feel confident in their studies. Many students have struggled, including my own. While teachers and admins strive to give the children the best they can, is not enough. My children have come out of school crying more times than I can count because it just isn't working. They deserve more. The district needs to open schools for in-person active learning now, not next month, not at the beginning of the next school year, but now. Parents have risen to the challenge to give the district time to figure out what was going on. Now the ball is in your court, and we're begging you to give us some hope. I ask that the board please consider the in-person model set and not only implement it, but build on it. Give our students the most amount of time in class as possible to make up for this past year. We can go back and change what has happened. We can move forward and prove that we are a district who has the students' best interests in mind. End of comment. Comment 16, Anissa Galvin. What if staff or teacher gets sick with COVID and was exposed to someone with COVID and during that time frame were around the other children? What if a child comes to school and was exposed to someone at home with COVID? Do we have a choice to keep a child virtual or in-person learning? In the result of a confirmed case of school, what are protocols? What personal sanitary equipment are considering for children? How are you considering delivering on-hand washing needs as well as cleaning products? How are you learning? How are you leaning into outside vendors being campus, such as food vendors? Are parents allowed on campus before and after school, or will it be drop off and pick up by car only? The symptom screening will be done morning. Will masks be required, and to be sure to be worn properly, covering nose by staff and teachers? When and how will physical distance be maintained throughout school day? Will physical barriers be involved in classroom? How will the school limit the number of shared surface? What is the plan for regularly disinfecting surface through school? How will transportation to and from school change when school reopens? Who is the point person or group in charge of COVID-19 response team plan, how they communicate changes in school policy to parents and students? Thank you for yours, guys' hard work. End of comment. Comment 17, Melody Young, parent. Hello, I'd like to begin by thanking you and taking the time to listen to my concerns regarding the current method of teaching in our school district. My name is Melody Young. I have two daughters, ages 8 and 11, who attend Creekview Elementary School. I strongly believe that a proper education is of the utmost importance to our children's future. My daughter's teachers have gone far beyond the call of duty this year to try to teach effectively. They have found ingenious ways to keep their children engaged, have stayed in constant communication with parents, and worked hours well beyond what their pay scale warrants. Despite these endeavors, virtual teaching has proven to pale in comparison to in-person learning. It is for this reason that I have composed this letter. My intent is to ask that you make the decision to resume in-person learning without delay. Despite the best efforts of the teachers, it is impossible for them to teach with the same success on Zoom as they can in a classroom. When teaching over a computer, they are unable to see the comic book hidden under the table, encourage a child back to her Chromebook who has left with eyes full of tears of frustration, to see that a child is drawing pictures in their workbook rather than following the lesson plan, and so much more. Science experiments conducted virtually are not able to be comprehended to the same extent as when they're done in person. There is not a replacement for hands-on learning. The position our teachers are put in does not give them the ability to effectively teach. Our children have spent the last year of their lives learning through a remedial course of instruction. That year equates to just shy of 15% of their elementary schooling. Let that number sink in for a moment, 15%. Nearly 15% of our children's elementary education has been spent in a substandard method. I challenge you to ask yourself how much longer you can consciously let this method of learning continue as the only option for our children. I am sure that you are well aware of the growing list of health experts and public officials that agree that in-person school is not only able to be taught safely, but is essential to the welfare of our children. Just to be sure, I will list a few. The CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, Dr. Fauci, Governor Newsom, and President Biden all agree that in-person instruction is safe and should resume as soon as possible. Schools across the United States and around the world have been open at varying levels throughout the past year. During that time, it has been found that schools do not greatly amplify the spread of the virus, that children are not likely to contract and spread the virus, and the vast benefits of having schools open outweigh the risks involved in doing so. While there is much more that I would like to say on this matter, the time allotted is short and has come to an end. So in closing, I ask you again, do the right thing, open the schools, allow our children the education that they deserve. End of comment. Comment 18, Madeline Hidalgo, student. Hi, my name is Madeline Hidalgo. I go to Creekview Elementary. I'm a straight A student. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I think the school should open. First of all, it is hard to concentrate when you are at home. There are many things that can distract you when you are at your house. For instance, I have 2 pets and I'm always distracted by them and wanting to play with one of them. The second reason is the internet problems. When you are on a computer, many things can go wrong. One of the most annoying things is when you get kicked out of Zoom. You might miss something very important because sometimes it can take a while to get back onto Zoom. The third reason is family. Sometimes you may get distracted by your family like I do. Sometimes my sister comes up to me and starts talking to me, but if I were to be in school, that wouldn't happen. Those are my 3 reasons I think the school should open. End of comment. Comment 19, Alexis Whipple, student. Hello, my name is Alexis Whipple. I am an 8th grader who attends Grace Oakley Junior High. I'm writing to the board tonight and request that you open our schools. March 13th, 2020, we were sent home with the intentions of social distancing for 3 weeks and returning to school in hopes we would be over COVID-19. Against our efforts, COVID-19 swept the United States into a stay-at-home order. In-person school would not be an option, so everyone went fully online. These fast-paced changes affected us all differently, but I would like to give the district some insight on what is going on for the kids at home. Throughout this last year, the phrase, we are all in this together has become the anthem of every moment I'll start that sentence again. Throughout this last year, the phrase, "we are all in this together," has become the anthem of every movement to fight COVID-19. We hear this every day from our teachers, but as soon as we close our Chromebooks, we're in our houses alone and resume being isolated in our houses. Continually, we are told we will be back soon or soon we'll be in person. The word soon has lost all meaning to us. That's not the only thing we've lost, though. We have lost hope. We have lost hope in school, in life, and in our purpose. As our district persists to give us no date of returning, the purpose of our lives seems to fade. Life has become a dull cycle of waking up and dreading the next few hours of our lives. Many of our parents and adults in our area have been able to go back to work with the minor inconvenience of wearing a mask. Yet kids are still expected to stay home every day. As growing teens, we face a roller coaster of emotions all day. One day, you can feel happier than ever. Then the next day, you feel so depressed, your life seems like nothing. With this new dynamic of soon being our only source of hope, I am only seeing the dark part of being a teen. Every teen is feeling this. We're burned to a crisp. There's no longer a few students. This is most of the student body. There's no amount of therapy or any kind of words that can help our students. No amount of speeches or moving videos can change our minds to be positive. Most of the students have lost hope at this point. Our houses have become our prison we cannot escape. For the students with abusive home lives, school was the only place they could feel safe and has been robbed from them. We need the community that school provides. Other districts surrounding us are moving towards opening up and finishing the school year in hybrid. We can't sit back and wait any longer for soon to come. Soon needs to come now. We have given the option to all teachers and workers at the school to get vaccines. These are meant so our lives can proceed to start going back to normal. If the staff is getting vaccinated, why are we waiting? The last year has been robbed from us all, but how can we stand united when your student body is about to fall? Thank you for your time. End of comment.
Okay,
End
first of
public
all,
comments.
thank you, Dr. Moss, for reading all that. That was a Herculean effort. We appreciate it. Second, is there any further public comment? Okay, with that, I'll close public comment. Is there any board member wishes to address the issues brought up? Well, okay, we'll start with Mr. Swain, and I'll get to everybody that wants to speak.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who is viewing this meeting online. And I'd also like to thank all of you who took the time and the effort to send in public comments. What you have to say and your input is very important to me as a board member. There are two things I'd like to take some issue with. First, we are still in purple as a county. We are not yet in red. And secondly, many of you think that all of our teachers and staff have been fully vaccinated, and they have not. Those who chose to be vaccinated have only had the opportunity to have one vaccine. Therefore, they are not fully safe. Secondly, I am the father of 8, grandfather of 30. Of our 8 kids and 8 in-laws, 6 of them are in the teaching profession. Some of them have been teachers in this district. Some of them teach in adjacent districts, some in Orange County, some in San Diego. Our grandkids attend Mountain View schools, Chaffee Joint schools. They're kind of all over the place. We have some in Orange County. We have some in San Diego County. And I stand with you. I see that kids need kids. I also see that kids need to see their teachers. They need to have interaction with their teachers. So everything that you have said is very important to me as a board member. I personally like to thank Madeline and Alexis for coming up and stepping forward or coming forward and stating your concerns and your points of view. I listen to parents, I talk to parents, but it's not that often that we get to hear from students as eloquently as you two just spoke. So thank you very much for bringing your concerns to us. Last but not least, I suppose our challenge is to find the safest method of getting back to some form of normalcy. Staying, and our focus for this meeting is that. But with that, we have to stay within the guidelines and the restrictions that the state has placed upon us. So I guess that is our challenge tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do I have any other board members wish to speak? Yes, Dr. Williams.
Hopefully you hear me. I agree with everything Ron, Mike said.
Could you hold the mic a little closer to you?
Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm sorry. I concur with everything that Mr. Sweeney said. And but the most important thing is safety, not of the student, not only the student, but the teachers also. And with that being said, we have to really, we have to look to science. And then for those people that are students that boots on the ground, when I say boots on the ground, those three students really, actually, that are there in the trenches. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to take their opinion, the students' opinions, and talk about it, think about it, because those are the ones that's going to be in the classrooms, and it's sort of difficult for the students. So, but we're taking everyone's opinion, both teachers and students. But we have to look at the guidelines that we're being dealt with and try to make a decision that is amicable to everyone. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
The last 12 months, the board has been bombarded with COVID information, rules and regs from CDC, state, county, and local governments, as well as California School Board Association, School Services of California. But most importantly, what matters is to us is our local stakeholders. I have a son who's 13 years old, who attends Grace Jokley Middle School. When I come home, I have to answer to him. As a board member, we put our children first, the students. I'm a representative of my community, but when my son asks a question, he has my full attention, and you have mine tonight. I welcome public comment, I welcome opinion, and I welcome debate. My son happens to ask this evening, when can we have band in sports? He's not asking about in-person instruction in math. He's asking about band in sports. He misses the camaraderie. He misses playing his trumpet. He misses playing soccer with his other teammates. He wants to return. I want our students to return. And more so, I want to do away with this garment on my face. I've been wearing this since February. I wear it during my day job and I wear it in the evening. But I think we need to do so very measured, because prior to coming here this evening, I went to the county website and there it says on the webpage, we are still purple tier widespread. And as we know, we cannot return to schools until we move to that red tier. But we do so with full engagement of our educators, our classified, executive cabinet, and also the direction of the board. So this evening, I very much appreciate all the information that's being contributed this evening, so we can make a educated decision and a rationale decision that better serves our community. So thank you.
You have a comment?
Yeah, I want to just first say thank you for sharing. I love the fact that we can hear the hearts behind everything. And I know even just the people in this room, some of the things that were read by Dr. Moss, it meant something to us whenever we hear the hearts of the people. And there was great questions that were asked. And while we're not going to address those now, I think the presentations that are going to come going to answer a lot of those, and then we are going to be discussing later. And so I hope that your question does get asked. We all were taking notes. And so thank you so much for just sharing your comments, because it means a lot.
Comments? Just to spin off a different subject, a couple of the public comments regarding the redistricting process. The board administration we have a tentative redistricting plan that we're working on. It has been held up because of the census information not being released, not only redistricting for us, but redistricting for the state, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we do have a plan, and again, it will be in place before the next election, and which is our commitment. And so with that, did you have one more comment?
I do have follow-up on that, if
Okay.
you'd like for me to pursue
Sure.
this now. So as far as the timeline for the redistricting, again, the primary question has come up regarding census data. The federal census data has not been certified. Normally that's done long before now, but that has not happened yet. So the federal census data is currently in the process of being certified. We don't anticipate the reporting of that for a while yet. However, we can still move forward with the trustee zones. Some of the highlights of that will be August 9th, 2021 is our first board meeting where the first pre-map public hearing and presentation will take place, followed the second follow-up meeting, which will be September 13th, which is the second pre-map public hearing. A variety of processes will then happen after that, including three additional public hearings. County Committee on School Districting Organization holds their meeting. State Board of Education will be meeting in March. And the intent is to have the process completed in April of 2022, where we will then be able to have the trustees in place for us to submit to the Registrar of Voters in San Bernardino County. All of this information will be available to the public on our website. There'll be a designated page. We hope to have that up by the beginning to middle of April. You'll be able to click on there under Trustee Zone Project, and you'll be able to see each of these steps, where we are with each of these steps, any additional follow-up information. Once we have maps, proposed maps, you'll be able to access those proposed maps there. And the information from past meetings will also be present. So.
All right, again, thank you. Just a second. Thanks for all the comments from the board members and the superintendent and all the comments made in public comment. Do you have a short one, Dr. Williams?
Dr. Moss, at what point would the demographer come into play?
Demographer comes into play really from go. So when we're talking about that August 9th meeting, so that planning process really starts in April. That's with the pre-information, gathering the information, the various components of the district, what our maps look like. The demographers are then able to have that base data. The challenge within Mountain View School District, why that census data is so important, is we all know that in the previous census, the 2010 census, you didn't have a whole lot of people in Ontario Ranch, but you had a lot of cows. And the census doesn't count cows, it only counts people. Now we have a lot of people living down there. So we can do a certain amount of guesstimation as far as number of people. But again, the demographers are going to look at the bigger, broader picture of where we're at, and then be able to take that foundation to fill in census data once it's released. So they will begin that process in April, but it becomes in earnest once we head towards that August date.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to take a 4 or 5 minute break. I would tell the audience that right after the break, we will have a presentation on facilities in relationship to where we are in protocols and abilities and sanitation, et cetera, et cetera. We'll also have a presentation on student and mental health services, where they're standing with the current situation. Then we'll have a discussion on various learning modules related to COVID-19 response. And then we'll probably have an action item regarding that. So there's still a lot to come, but we're going to take a few minute break. So thank you. Okay, with that, we're back in session. Next item is presentation on Mountain View School District facilities. Our Assistant Superintendent, Jeremy, will present the Mountain View School District readiness in regards to facilities for potential pivot to in-person living.
Yes, thank you. Not sure if we're hot here. Thank you, members of the board, Dr. Moss, for an opportunity to present kind of our current status in relationship to facilities preparedness for a potential pivot to in-person learning. In this short presentation, we'll kind of cover what we have done, what we currently are doing, and then what we will continue to do as we progress towards through the end of the school year. Key areas of focus in this presentation will be personal protective equipment, which we hear a lot about, our PP&E, and facility preparations that have gone on during the course of the year, and then our stance on a proactive future response. So regarding personal protective equipment, or PPE, over the course of the school year, the district has utilized federal COVID relief funding. We had just over $1 million at the beginning of the year that we utilized for the purchase of much of the facilities items that will be outlined here tonight, plus that went heavily into support our technology base for our online virtual learning. But we use this to purchase and stock PPE for staff and student use. Additionally, the state had supplied some resources to supplement our stock of PPE. The district is continually monitoring our levels of PPE across its school sites and will continue to replenish supplies as needed. So this is an ongoing process where we're in conversation with our site administrators who share with us, hey, we need this item or this item, and we proactively work to replenish that. Some of the PPE items that we have on hand, disposable face masks of multiple sizes, both for adults and students. The state did provide us with cloth face masks as well for staff and students. Since then, CDC guidance has not recommended the use of cloth face masks just because of the dirt and the ability to reuse them. They prefer the disposable, so we have invested more heavily in the disposable face masks. We have clear plastic face shields available for staff use and are being utilized by some of our paraeducators and special education staff as they work with students on assessments now. We've recently purchased a few hundred N95 medical grade masks for use in our health facilities by our health technicians and our school nurse. And we have those on hand as well. We have about 150 touchless thermometers. The state initially gave us 12, and I went out and purchased another 140 to make sure that we had at least one thermometer to put in every teacher's hand had we gone to a hybrid model early and needed to be able to take temperatures of students as they came on campus. We're currently, I have Edwin Lee from our technology department researching thermal imaging thermometer stands that you see maybe when you go to Kaiser or your local doctor, where it's a machine you walk up to and it'll tell you green or red whether your temperature. So we're looking into investing into a few of those per school site to help allow the ingress and of students on campus to move that process of temperature checks along, because that is a #1 indicator of students who may be symptomatic of COVID. We also have purchased a number of personal plexiglass barriers, and these are just, 3x3 barriers that we've been using in our assessment areas for our staff, in our reception areas as well, in our libraries, and in our health offices. And we're looking to purchase a larger stock of these to have them available as needed. Like I mentioned before, much of this PPE is replenishable, and we are constantly monitoring those levels and working to replenish as needed. Moving on to facility preparation, the district and individual school sites have worked to create clean, sanitized, and safe environments for our staff and students. We're talking a lot about moving to in-person learning. A lot of our facility preparations began when we were just working to create safe environments for our staff here at school, which was a great start to us moving that direction, because we've been really able to hone our practice and protocols to make sure we're streamlined and that we're creating the safest environment possible. Classified staff, primarily our custodial teams and our school proctors, have been instrumental in ensuring that our school facilities are clean and sanitized on an ongoing basis. Additionally, we have worked to make improvements across our facilities in preparation for potential return of students. To outline a few of our safety protocols, we've provided and posted district safety, COVID safety protocols that staff should follow on a daily basis. This is part of our COVID compliance workplace, talking about social distancing, washing your hands, maintaining your face masks, just ensuring that we have the safest work environment possible. This also translates to when we have students on campus, those safety protocols apply across the board. We've established fixed entry exit points at each site, which enable us to control personnel on campus and to provide opportunity for temperature and wellness screenings as people enter and exit campus. We've posted signage all over our campus. In fact, I think our principals have too much signage for their campus at this point. I think I ordered them 100 of all of our wear your face mask, wash your hands, and keep your distance signs. And we have them all over our campuses, big, large signs, very clearly readable. In fact, I don't think you can see through the glass windows at our district office right now because there's so many signs posted, which I think we've all become accustomed to in every workplace or place of business that we visit. Ongoing sanitizing and cleaning. This has been a huge area of focus because we, aside from maintaining social distance and keeping our masks, we see this as a primary fighting tool for preventing COVID in our workplace. And so we've put a heavy emphasis on sanitizing. In fact, across our district, while we had staff fully on site, this is kind of a moment I'm proud of for our district. We had one instance where we had COVID transference in the district, in the workplace. That's unheard of for even a business of our size across. We just had staff who was very good about following our protocols, maintaining clean hands and distance and wearing their face masks. So a large part of this has gone on, is in reference to our sanitizing and cleaning. We've recently purchased for each site 2 portable electrostatic spray fogging sanitizing units. Stephen has lovingly calls them our ecto packs, if the Ghostbusters reference. And these are mounted with a water-based solution, much similar to chlorine tablets that you put in your pool or jacuzzi. And you can spray down a room and have it sanitized within 5 minutes. By just walking through. A number of businesses use these now. Yes, sir.
What will that spray sanitizing do to plexiglass?
It's an interesting, and I'll get to it a little bit later, but I'll answer your question right now. What we found in other districts is that it actually yellows or opaques the plexiglass to a point of where after 3 or 4 sprays, it almost becomes impossible to see through it clearly. And so that, as I'll mention later in the presentation, has kind of driven our direction for when we have students return to classroom and how we will arrange the classroom layout. So I will address that further. Yes. So this will allow having 2 packs on campus. and our two custodians working in concert with one another, we can sanitize just about every room in the school in 30 to 60 minutes, depending upon the size of the classroom. We've been provided by the state large quantities of gallon size sanitizing pump dispensers. So you'll see these a lot of throughout the common areas where you can take and sanitize your hand. We've got them everywhere. We have automated sanitizing dispensers for high traffic areas. And then we've recently purchased a quantity, and I believe they're being installed either this week or next week in every classroom, the wall mounted foam dispensers for sanitizing. So we'll have them mounted by the doors and the entry doors of every classroom. So students, as they walk by, or staff, we tried to plaster, along with all of our signage, multiple places where students and staff can sanitize their hands, because like I said, sanitizing is one of those key defenses to preventing the spread of COVID. Additionally, we have implemented rotating sanitizing schedules of high touch surface areas throughout the day. I remember early on being in, I think, Mrs. Alba's office with a meeting and hearing a rattle at the door, and I kind of stopped talking. She goes, "Oh, don't worry, it's just Joe wiping down the handle." And then 30 minutes later, somebody else did it. And so we've really gotten this good flow at our sites, and our principals have been key in this and creating these schedules using our custodial staff and proctors, that we were highly focused on sanitizing all of our high touch surface areas. And as I mentioned earlier, we now have the ability to sanitize all classrooms in a school in about 30 to 60 minutes, with a kill time of, they refer to a kill time of any germs of about 5 minutes once it's been applied. So it's these backpacks are kind of a game changer for us for being able to mass sanitize the school. Other facility improvements and maintenance. We talk about air purification and filtration, always a hot topic. A lot of people want to know about air exchange or air purification. You'll see mounted on our back wall there is one of the air purification units we purchased. Each school site currently has 3. I just placed an order for 4 more units for each school site. These are placed in large common areas such as an NPR, a school office, a staff workroom. We've purchased more so that we can make sure we have them in our health office, and then what I will describe later as our alternative health facilities. And so we've purchased and installed these air purifying units, and we're currently working to increase those numbers. We've had all of our HVAC units, they're already routinely inspected, but we've made sure we've gone through and had all of our units in working order, because there's far less people on campus right now. Our machines are running great. So we expect that when staff are back on campus full-time and as students come on campus, that will continue to be the case. And we also have our regular quarterly filter replacement that we do. We already do that on a quarterly basis, but I'm already in talks with our HVAC company about increasing that cycle once we have people on campus. It is an extra expense, but it's also, it just ensures that we're really working to make sure we have that clean air filtering through the campus. Office entry and safety and security barriers. Mountain View and Ranch View schools have already had glass storefront barriers in place, providing extra protective health and safety layers. Glass window enclosures were added to Grace Oakley School front office this past summer, and currently we're in the middle of a construction project at Creekview, establishing a glass safety barrier. This is a good protective layer for our staff when people enter in and out of the school, and that should be done hopefully by the end of spring break. Classroom layout to promote social distancing. So MVSD is choosing to focus on utilizing distancing between students in the classroom, along with masking to provide safety barriers. Classroom layouts will seek to maximize space by providing up to 6 feet of distance between individual student desks. Use of plexiglass barriers by other districts has been mixed. Some are not using them, and districts who have used them are now seeing them begin to remove those barriers. And one of our neighbors to the south, Corona Norco, we're seeing that become more of an issue for them. They're either cumbersome, they're breaking, the kids can't see through them, they're coated with the sanitizing fog, which to me is far more of a priority than the actual barrier. We've preached all along that social distancing and wearing your mask and washing your hands are going to take care of far more transference than putting necessarily a plastic barrier between you. So if we continue to encourage that and promote that in our school sites, we're going to see our numbers stay any transference cases stay extremely low. Yes, sir.
One of the things that I'm so.
Use your mic.
One of the things I have a concern is the flow of traffic.
Mhm.
Will there be any? Under normal circumstances, we have kids passing back and
Yes.
forth. So how will we do the flow of traffic from one point?
That's a very good question, and I'll get that in the last section
Oh,
of my
okay, I'm
comments.
sorry.
But no, you're great. You guys are helping me out
Okay.
here. You're leading me on. And then with a focus on classroom layouts that will limit the number of students in a classroom and adequate space for social distancing, students will not be able to share common tables or desks. So we'll be working with our administrators to make sure classroom layouts are not common round tables or kidney tables, at least in these initial phases of in-person learning, are not part of our classroom setup. So that double desks, we don't have two students sitting at the same double desk, that we have more spacing and we're more spread around. That's been our intent and our focus as we move forward. Our health office and what we were referring to as our alternative health facilities, our district nurse, who has been a great resource through this process, Ms. Paniagua, has made recommendations to myself and to Ms. Van Dyke of our student services regarding the need to create and staff alternative health facilities on each campus to handle students or staff who may exhibit symptoms of COVID-19. So if we have someone who comes down with a temperature or they're not feeling well and we're unsure, we don't want to send them to the office to our normal health room. We want to have an alternative facility where they can be isolated, in a sense quarantined, till where we're able to establish more what's going on there, make parent contact, whatever needs to be done in order to make sure that we're keeping those cases separate and aside from our normal office population. And so we actually have our first meeting with one of our school sites this week, and I'll be reaching out with the other principals to set up these meetings as well, to make sure we have these established in the coming weeks and we know what we're doing and we can work to appropriately stock and staff these rooms. And then, like I said, having an alternative health facility for COVID symptomatic students and staff will allow current health offices to service other non-COVID related health needs of the school site. We still think we're going to have those students who throw up and have a headache and, bump their toe or whatever. And so we're going to need that facility space for that as well. Proactive future response is the last phase. And this is essentially that MVSD has taken a proactive response to changes and recommendations from the state and local health officials, as well as from the CDC, as it refers to the use of our facilities in the midst of a COVID pandemic. We will continue to monitor these guidelines, implement future health and safety protocols, provide and install needed equipment, and modify current procedures as needed in order to ensure the safety of all persons who are on our district campuses. To address your question, Dr. Willingham, I will be working with principals, because this is kind of the most upcoming one that we're beginning to face as we look at bringing students back onto campuses. How will we handle what we call ingress and egress, students entering campus and students leaving campus? And we will have general protocols that will be set district-wide, but those are going to be more site-specific because every site is unique. And so I'll be working with principals to establish what those procedures look like for their individual sites, relying on their expertise and knowledge of their site and how that would best work and flow in order to make sure we're maintaining distance, we're able to do those wellness and screening checks at the same time and bring kids in safely.
So just to expand on that, I understand that this is in the planning process, but with only a few weeks, if we pivot that way, it will come quickly.
Yes, it will.
Not only ingress, egress into the campus and out of the campus, but along the pathways inside the campus, and specifically any of them, but in particular interest would be the middle school, where we would have one aisle this way and then that aisle that way, or split them up or whatever. Also, have we discussed whether incoming students will be temperature monitored as they enter the campus? And those who have an excessive temperature would be turned away. I mean, those are things to consider. I know a lot of schools do that. Some schools have everybody check in online first and then,
Yep.
but do a temperature check, or who's going to do that? I understand the spray down, the 30 to 60 minutes, which is wonderful, but are we set up protocols for staff and teachers and everything, how they're going to run sanitation in their own room? There's a lot of little it's buts, which I know you're working on, don't get me wrong, but I just want to make sure everybody understands it's more than just flinging your gate open and letting everybody in. There's got to be some, and that goes for drop off and moving along. I mean, are we, how are we going to handle that? So anyway, just room for thought.
Yes, and you're exactly correct. There's a lot of defined details that we'll be working out, and I'll be meeting with each principal individually to discuss how those things work specifically at their school site.
I have a comment down here. Question.
Mr. Courier, if I can, I have a few questions, and I think you touched on that. President Newton very well with the ingress and the temperature check. So thank you very much it's very impressive, your presentation. You covered all the bullet points that things that came to mind for me personally, but a couple more questions. How do you address electronic devices? How do you sanitize them? How do you keep them clean for those who may have been exposed?
Well, there wouldn't be any sharing of electronic devices. Those are student unique at this point, checked out to the students. So the students would be bringing those. We have to have conversations. This is a beginning as we look to pivot, whether we'll be having students bring those on campus with them, whether students will be doing book work on campus. And then if they're at home, they're doing virtual learning. So those are all questions we're addressing. However, if a student would have an electronic device on campus, that would be unique to them and used only by them. And so it wouldn't be used by anybody else. So we would imagine them taking it to and from campus with them. Again, that is open to interpretation. We can work on the actual procedures of that. I know my tech department cringes when they think of the thought of devices moving to and from campus, especially by kindergartners. But we want to make sure that we're able to support the type of learning that our teachers have become accustomed to through this virtual process, because they have really grown in leaps and bounds in their technology implementation in the classroom. We want to continue to support that and not frustrate that. But at the same time, you're exactly right, being aware of not sharing those devices. We have purchased some sanitizing devices, but not enough to do the entire school.
All right, one more question.
Yes, sir.
What comes to mind is my son, who's a band student, plays trumpet. How do they deal with the masking?
This is a great question, because actually I work with Mrs. Greenwood, who's here this evening, today on purchasing, and with Nicole, purchasing a large amount of PPE specific to band equipment, flute face shields, singing masks, all types of equipment that Karen has done a great job to research for us, present to me, and she gave me the number she needed, the types of things she needed, and we jumped on that and went out and got those ordered today, and she should be receiving them in the next week. So it was a great foresight on her part, and then reaching out to the district to make sure that we had the needed equipment to continue those music and band programs.
Very nice, because that's specific to brass and woodwind, but the drummer and the cymbal guy, they're still going to wear the regular mask.
Of course, yeah.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Good job, Jeremy, on this. A lot of, and I don't know if you're the one to ask this too, but a lot of parents are wondering, are their students going to have to be tested? I know that was in the governor's proposal, but could you just address that?
Yes, it's an interesting thing. For us to reopen prior to April 1st, there is no requirement for schools to conduct testing of students. And I believe Dr. Moss can correct me if I'm wrong. Post return April 1st, that is not you would have to provide that. The state has recognized that is a very burdensome task for a district logistically, as far in additional financially, and the benefits are unclear of whether it's going to make a difference if we're testing students and knowing in time to be able to prevent contamination of other students. And so there is no portion in our plan regarding testing of students or of staff for that matter.
I have a question that's kind of twofold.
Sure.
Will we post maximum occupancy signs in each room based on social distancing? One. And if we do, And I'm assuming that the split of students and parents who opt for in-person learning will dictate how many students are in each classroom. So what if we have 80% of, say, Mr. Garrett's students who want to attend in person? How are we going to deal with that?
Yeah, and some rooms are larger than others. And so, yes, we would be able to accommodate more students in one classroom than another. And so those will be specific things we'll be working outside. We do believe that an average of about 15 to 16 students per classroom would allow us the distancing needed if we were to kind of close down the reading centers and the grouping tables and spread those out. Now, part of our initial surveying was done to give us a temperature check. Now, it's not wholly accurate, but it's to give us a temperature check of how many parents are leaning towards keeping their kids at home and maintaining on virtual, and how many are leaning towards an in-person model. What we're seeing is almost an even 50-50 split. And that might not be the case in every class, which is why Dr. Moss was very clear to say, in these models, our goal is to keep you with your teacher, but that may not be the case. Because if we have a class that says is the anomaly and 22 of those kids want to come back and we know we only have space in that room for 16, there may be some schedule changes that need to take place, and we'll work to make those adjustments.
I would suggest that you also look to utilizing things like the multipurpose rooms, the cafeterias, the shade out underneath the solar things, as many schools have done, to ensure that if it is a larger class, they are adequately spread out. I'm sorry, Mrs. Sweeney.
One more thing.
Yes, sir.
What are we doing to accommodate backpacks and jackets, personal items for students as they come into class? Because obviously we don't want them storing their jackets on top of one another.
Yeah, and it's great that you asked that question, because I actually had the same conversation with my wife the other evening. My initial inclination is to say that because our students will be distanced from each other, they will keep their personal items with them at their desk area. Because where normally a student might be sitting next to them, they might have their backpack and their jacket next to them. And so then they would be able to keep those. We wouldn't want them hanging on the common hooks outside the doors or on a coat rack that might be already provided in the classroom. Students would need to maintain that equipment, their books, their backpacks, their jackets, their snack bags, whatever, with them at their seating area, and avoiding contact with other students. Again, everything to try to keep that distance barrier.
Thank you very much, and an excellent presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Jeremy.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Next presentation is Ms. Jan Van Dyke, Director of Student Services, who will present on the Mountain View School District Student Mental Health Services.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Moss. Thank you for letting me present on our Mountain View school students on their mental health status for this year. Excuse me, I hope you can hear me. In 2019-20 school year, we had approximately 33 threat assessments that were a combination of in-person and virtual threat assessments that needed to be conducted. In addition to those 33, we had 18 who were already receiving services that required some type of threat assessment. This year, a little over about 7 months into the school year, we've had 13 threat assessments that have needed to be conducted. 11 in addition, 11 of the threat assessments were conducted on students who were already receiving services. 56% of those took place within the elementary sites and 44% were at the junior high. Student, staff, and parents create a safety plan to monitor those students when they come back. Students that receive services are actually monitored, and their services are increased to twice a week until the student is stable. The comparison between last year and this year is we've had a 17% increase on the percentage of students that were in imminent danger, meaning that we had to refer them to the hospital or had to refer them to an outside agency to conduct a more thorough threat assessment. So there has been, even though the numbers are smaller, the imminent danger, there are students that are showing signs of being more in imminent danger. We've had one student who actually tried to, attempted and was hospitalized. And we monitor all those students that have gone through the process. As far as students who receive service, we are seeing roughly about 15% of them regress due to additional stressors that they're experiencing being at home on virtual, the social anxiety. Those students are being seen regularly and monitored, but we're seeing higher number of students that are being referred, excuse me, due to more severe mental health issues this year, as well as referrals made to the MTSS team. We're seeing an increase of students that have never displayed any concerning behaviors prior to the year. The MTSS team, teachers and parents have stated that they've never had any concerns with these students previously. Those students right now, if they can be seen due to whatever their issue is, if they can be seen by the behavioral health team, they do. Some of them are requiring outside services, so they have been referred to outside agencies. Our behavioral health team will monitor, do a lot of case management for them, assist parents on making the connections, making phone calls, trying to make sure they can find a match for that student to receive outside services or such. We have been monitoring the virtual calming room to a certain extent because of how it's set up. We aren't able to really truly see how much access it's having, but we do know that with the help of one of our very tech savvy teachers, that she was able to discern that there was at least 300 hits from her classroom onto the virtual calming room. So students are definitely using the calming room. IT was able to do a search, and it looks like that's one of those first thing that pops up when you search Mountain View. So it's getting a lot of traffic going through there. We're hoping as we go forward to continue with the SEL, the social emotional learning that's taking place both at the elementary sites and at the junior high. As we go forward, even if we return in person, we're looking at doing some transition activities to help assist students transitioning back in with any anxiety or social emotional concerns that they may have. In conjunction, the behavioral health team are creating calming boxes for every teacher in the district to have that to utilize when those students return. If that's a need, it's a calming box that there are several strategies within that box that they can utilize to help them with if they are feeling anxious at that time. Last but not least, there's a few other things. We do get red flag reports regarding searches that students have done outside of the content filter. Well, there has been some high volume because this is a new system. We don't have a baseline, but there has been some high volume with suicide and depression or loneliness, which staff will reach out and follow up with those that do show up. They will either look at the content that's being searched. If there's discipline that needs to be looked at, they'll obviously look at discipline. If there's mental health issues that are coming out from those searches, they will refer it to the behavioral health team to do some more research. Last but not least, we are looking at offering a mental health first aid training. The San Bernardino Superintendent of Schools has a grant for this mental health first aid training, so it would be free of charge to us. It's a training that it focuses on early signs of mental health. What are the risk factors? What should we look like? What should we look for? How it manifests within the classroom, and then very simple strategies, helpful classroom resources. Chaffey Joint Unified has utilized this, and it really has allowed not only the teachers and the paraprofessionals recognize when students may be experiencing some problems, but before they get to that full-blown crisis situation.
I have one, Jan, and this is probably more for Dr. Moss than you because it's kind of new money issues.
Mhm.
But Dr. Moss, the recovery money that the governor has earmarked as an incentive to schools to open prior to April 1st. I mean, I think Jan probably needs a lot of help with our behavioral health team. It pains me drastically to hear a student, Alexis, talking about anxiety and depression. This is an 8th grade child. My God, that shouldn't be going on. And if we need to expand that behavioral health team, we need to do it quickly. Is that money usable in that field?
And the answer to that is yes. I am very happy the work that the legislature and the governor have done specifically to allow us to earmark additional funds for what is deemed as COVID recovery, not recovering from COVID, the disease, but from the pandemic and all the various elements of that pandemic. We're able to access funds specifically to increase our mental and behavioral health services that we have, but we're also able to expand programming, training, additional support services beyond anything we've had previously. So the funds are enable us to be able to access funds, but the funds are designed specifically to help address some of the social and emotional needs of our students as we go through the recovery process. And that's not just for a couple of months, that is all the way through 22. So again, that's a big thank you to our state government that has provided the funds available for us to do that and allowed those to be ongoing. So it's not just for a couple of months, we're talking through the end of 22.
That's great news. Thank you.
One of the things you said was very alarming to me, the 17% increase in students in imminent danger. That scares me. As I hear that, I think about, like Mr. Sweeney said, the students that have shared and the parents that have shared, and it becomes so important that we have to do this. And so I love that. I don't know what's in this calling box. I'd love to learn more about that, but I would say full on and going with the mental health first aid training. This is so important. And I know it's heavy on the teachers' hearts. They've expressed to me that they know they're going to have to deal with the emotional baggage that comes with this whenever the students come back. There is no amount of stress I can put on how important this is. It is so important. We have to take care of these kids socially and emotionally.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
None? Thank you, Jan. Next item is a discussion item on the Mountain View School District Board of Trustees will now discuss potential instruction options in response to COVID-19. I'll let Dr. Moss get us started, and then as we discuss, if you just sort of, I have a rally, but just I'll recognize you, or wait for a pause.
So I'll provide background information for the board to begin the discussion portion. In this, I'll be providing some of the basic facts that we have up until now, as it is for the Mountain View School District COVID response, as well as potential pivot options. There'll also be information on dual platform programming, as well as our survey results. At the end of that time, I will then open it to the board for discussion, and I am available for questions, but as well as the entire cabinet is available to answer questions should the board have them. The California legislature and Governor Newsom have signed into law the California School Reopening Plan, and that is great news as we've talked about the needs that we have in the state of California. The needs are not just to reopen the schools, though that is of crucial importance. It is recognized that the reopening of the schools is a key component to our economic recovery in the state of California. We know that our COVID-19 rates continue to fall in the state and the county. This is great news. These are important indicators. And as I have mentioned in many messages, these are my rays of light of hope. And that is crucial. We have now more than 250 employees have had their vaccine dose 1. More than 30 have already had dose 2. This is fantastic news. And I want to thank our state and county partners and most importantly, our community partners for the assistance that they have provided Mountain View School District in being able to have access to COVID vaccines. This has helped our process in being able to get to the place where we can potentially pivot. California's blueprint for economic recovery has placed us in purple. Now we've been purple and we've been deep purple ever since the beginning of the school year. The Board of Trustees adopted a policy that our MVSD response to purple would be 100% distance learning to maintain the health and safety of our staff, students, and community. San Bernardino County, though, as of today is in purple. We are moving towards red. And there is a general feeling that as the state moves through these tiers, they're going to be much faster. So though we may have been deep purple and purple for a year, what we're hearing from our county partners is that we anticipate being able to shift through these colors much faster than how we got to purple and stayed at purple. And that's great news. There is more vaccine available now than ever before, not just for educators, but for our general population in South Ontario, which is fantastic. Our teachers have been doing an outstanding job creating effective 100% distance education programs. Some students have done well with distance learning, and some students have not done well with distance learning, and every teacher in every classroom will express that. We know that the social emotional needs of our students have risen dramatically during COVID-19. As Ms. Van Dyke just presented the information, this is something that is key to all, or is in our hearts and is key to our recovery from COVID, which is why we are thankful for the additional resources being made available. I would like to also mention that our teachers have expressed to me an interest in having additional training resources available for mental and behavioral health. And the training that was mentioned by Ms. Van Dyke was very well received in Chafee because it's hands-on. It's not pie in the sky. It's not just talking about theoretics. It's talking about what teachers can do in the classroom when they see certain behaviors. How can they assist students in different ways? All school districts in California are going to need to provide academic, social, emotional, and psychological support to students for the coming year and more. This is part of what's called COVID-19 pandemic recovery. Parents are advocating for their students to return to school, and parents are advocating for their students to stay on distance learning. All parents have valid points that are rooted in their own family's experience during the pandemic. I don't think any two families in our district share the same exact experience. Governor Newsom and the California legislature have created an incentive program for California schools to begin the return to in-person instruction. The approved government plan would provide Mountain View School District more than $2 million to support our district's COVID-19 pandemic recovery. This includes, but is not limited to, summer school, after-school tutorial, enhanced mental health support, staff programs, safety aspects for schools, etc. All as we move towards a more traditional model. All signs of normalcy. Approved funding does require adherence to the government's specific plan for reopening, which includes offering in-person instructional models by April 1st, 2021. That is contingent upon your color within your county. So if you are purple by April 1st, then that would mean that you will be opening TK through 2 hybrid models, and you would also offer specialized cohorts. For counties in the state that are—
Dr. Moss, just to repeat that, there's been some confusion on that.
Mhm.
Even though the county is purple on March 31st, you could open up the
You can.
lower grades.
So with the governor's proposed, or the governor looking at the specific color and response patterns, you are able to open, if you're purple, you can open TK through 2 and special cohorts. That might be special education, etc.
Sure.
However, if your county is red or orange or yellow, then you would be opening are be providing hybrid opportunities, TK, all the way up through the grade levels that you're providing. So for us, that would be TK through 8, including our special cohort, special education.
At red or,
That's at red,
okay, so we go TK through 8 at red.
at red,
At purple, we can go TK through 2.
and special cohorts.
So, yes.
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
And if it goes back to purple, I know that's not what we're gonna see, but
What happens? That's a great question. So if you do, now previously we had very narrow bands, if everyone remembers, we had this narrow band where you'd have to wait 5 days, but then if you had an increase in rates and you would only, you'd have a shorter period of time before you return to the next tier. That has all changed in the past few weeks. That has been, the information coming out from the state has changed. We're about to have another alteration in those tiers. That is why you're beginning to see information about amusement parks, sport venues, et cetera. Those have an opportunity to open starting in April because of these changes. So it would take a lot in many days once you change to a more restrictive tier before you would have to have a specific response from the school setting.
As I understand, no, again, I can't speak for the education in the classroom, but I know that, say, the athletics that are going on, once they drop below a certain number of people per 100,000, they could re-energize, but the number for them to shut down again is much higher than it was to get there.
That is correct.
Okay, so I would assume that the governor and the state is thinking along those lines. Yes, we got down here, but it would have to really go bad to shut down again.
And over a longer period of time
Yeah.
than what shut us down to
Okay.
begin with. That is correct.
Okay,
So Mountain View School District has planned for an eventual pivot from 100% distance education. Our thought in the beginning of the school year was that we would not need to be on distance education for long because we would move out of purple and move through those tiers at a much faster rate than happened. However, our original hybrid model would have offered 2 days per week in person, and more than 65%, and in some estimates, 75% of students would have to have a teacher change. We've learned a lot since July of 2020 on a whole variety of different topics, but we know that we can do better than that, which is why the Mountain View School District team has created the revised proposed dual platform program that has an option for in-person hybrid plans. That's for in-person instruction, but also provides parents the choice of 100% distance education with Zoom sessions. And again, this is by parent choice. A pivot at this point in time would then provide Mountain View School District a bridge between the 100% distance education setting we've been in to a more traditional looking model in August of 2021. And there's some great advantages to having a bridge, to begin reopening our schools to in-person instruction and beginning that process. Our survey results, which the board you have in front of you, the parent response to our informational survey, elementary, in-person hybrid learning proposed based on the proposed draft schedules was 53.9%. 100% distance was 46.1%. So again, the in-person hybrid, 53.9%, 100% distance was 46.1%. Our parent response from junior high, in-person hybrid learning based on proposed draft schedules, 57.7%, 100% distance learning, 42.3%. These numbers are very similar to what other districts have received from similar informational proposals. So it's, yes.
sorry to interrupt, but, okay, so I saw the numbers, saw the graph, great job, very telling. I also noticed that the vaccine is gaining more acceptability now that everybody's seen that people aren't dropping in the street dead after the second dose. So I mean, to be frank, you know, there was a lot of fear. Now that they see people are doing well with the vaccines, that more and more people are getting the vaccine. And so we're 4 months ago, it may have been 40%, 30% didn't want the vaccine. Now it's down to 20, 18%. My question here is, if we switch this method, is it a line in the sand that the parents have to choose, or as they see that schools are operating safely, can they send student back, which would lead to the issue that Mr. Swade brought up now, where we are with capacity?
Right. So capacity is going to be a key component because if we have, for example, a classroom that has more students than can be accommodated by parent choice for in-person learning, we would either have to find a larger space for that class to be held, or last potential would be that there would be a cut where certain students would have to be transferred to a different class.
But would the parents have to choose in a certain window where to come back or remain virtual, or can they see it happening for 3 weeks and suddenly decide to send their child back to the school?
In order for us to maintain our classes and the integrity of our classes, they would need to choose before a specific date what
Okay.
they would do for the rest of the school year. They would either choose an in-person hybrid model or a 100% distance education model,
Okay.
and that would be for the remainder of this school year.
All right, that's why I was asking.
Dr. Moss, would that also include summer school also?
No, so
No?
everything that you have in front of you, all
Mhm.
information being provided tonight has this expiration date,
Okay,
which is the last day of this school year. Summer, even though it technically, I know a lot of people are tagging in with this year, is not part of this school year. Summer school is part of next school year. And there could be very different regulations in place. So today I did receive cursory information on what some districts are beginning to look at from a summer school perspective. We will have a lot more information soon from the state. We know that the funding is going to be there, but we want to know what the specifics are, what they're looking at from a summer school program. And again, it is not just for this year's summer school program, but likely also next year's summer school program. So the model we're looking at here is only until the end of May. That's when our school year comes to a close. Summer program for next school year may look very different from this. However, our experience here is going to bridge us to that, meaning we're going to learn from this experience of what, and not just us, meaning Mountain View School District, us as far as the state of California, we're going to learn what is working, what can we do from a summer school program? Because the hope and the emphasis, if you listen to the state, is on returning to as much of a normal, traditional environment as possible, as soon as possible. And for districts that start after Labor Day, I've heard great hope that that is their intent. We start early. We start in August. But still, if you listen to the message of districts that don't start until after Labor Day, they're talking about a much more normal return.
the reason why I ask, because, some parents are looking at that summer school as a possible bridge.
Mhm.
It's okay, like Mr. Newton said, no one's dropping out. And they say, oh, well, we got, summer school is here, send them back to class. All things went well. I'm sort of okay now going back in August. So a lot of people are looking at the summer school as a bridge, I know you said it's part of the school year for next year. But I think a lot of parents are looking at summer school as a possible barometer, I guess you could say.
And I have had parents who have emailed me saying, I'm interested in staying 100% distance for the remainder of this school year. I would like for that to be an option for me. I would like for my children to attend summer school, and I'm hoping that's going to be hybrid or look more normal, looking more traditional as a bridge. So what you're saying is certainly what I have received emails about. There are some who do want their children to stay on a 100% distance model now, but are hoping that the summer program will serve as a bridge to what looks much more traditional for the beginning of our school year.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the base information provided? Then I turn it to the board for additional questions for me or for the rest of our leadership team.
Well, I'm looking at the plan you gave us. And Monday would be dark. In other words, it would, no students on campus on Monday, based on the chart you had here.
For elementary, correct.
Yes, for elementary. And then the in-person, students choosing to go in person would would be in class from 8 to 11, an hour, 40 minutes for lunch, and then it would be the virtual students up with, working with the teachers from 11:40 to 2:30 approximately, right?
Correct.
Okay. So couple of questions. Addressing one of the comments tonight about cleaning, okay? And while I fully expect that that issue will be worked out between us and staff, is there any validity perhaps to consider maybe a little longer lunch for teachers to not only collect themselves, but to clean or have people clean or whatever? I'm just, or are we contractually bound to end the school day by 2:30? I guess that's my question.
I heard two questions. I'm going to address both of them.
Okay.
So we are contractually bound because we do have a specific contract with our teachers for what their school day looks like, meaning
Okay.
beginning time and ending time, as
Okay.
well as a duty-free lunch. So that is something that is contractually bound and that would be preserved. We do have the ability to change what we call the learning landscape. So for example, we can reduce the time in the morning and also reduce the time in the afternoon to create more time in the middle of the day, that lunch period, so to say. However, by doing so, we reduce instructional time on both ends. So the challenge with that is we're trying to create as close to 3-hour blocks as possible to go ahead and again, try and create that optimal experience. Are we able to make changes within those learning landscapes to create more time in the middle? We can, but and I'll happy to turn this over to Karen in a moment as well. When you are working with the schedule, it's a big puzzle. And as you take one piece, you're kind of figure out where the next piece is going to go. If you take from something, you're going to manipulate something in a different space. in the
I'm
schedule.
personally not advocating changing the schedule that you have sitting here. I just wanted to address there was a concern in some of the public comments about that. And I just
Yes.
wanted to sort of put a lid on that, not a lid, kind of address that.
We do have flexibility within from bell to bell. If you take it from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, we have flexibility. However, each time you make a change, you're manipulating some other components. Yeah, but we do have, as we look at each learning block, both morning and afternoon, and also what that afternoon looks like, or sorry, the middle of the day looks like from a 40-minute lunch period.
So with this potential dual, I'm curious about the kids who are STC and other special needs who have the IEPs, individual education plans. If their families choose to keep them online, what kind of problems and what solutions do we have for, because they usually have a paraeducator for at least part of the day that helps them. How are we going to address that need and help those students in this situation, since we have limited paraeducators?
I'm going to address the first part of the question, and then I'll turn it over to Jan Van Dyke to address the other. The answer always goes back to the IEP and the IEP team. So they would need to make those specific determinations based upon if the parent choice, for example, was to be in person. That might look different than if they were to remain on a virtual environment. However, both of those would need to be a discussion, not necessarily with an IEP meeting. It needs to be a discussion with their case carrier, with their teacher, of what that looks like, what their IEP plan looks like, what other types of services they receive, paraeducator support, et cetera. And then Jan Van Dyke, do you have additional information you want to share?
In looking at this schedule, it really provides for those that stay on discipline to receive that same support if they're having to support them. And that's what we've been in discussion on, how to continue that.
Is there enough paraeducators to support morning and afternoon in a situation like that?
Not knowing the number, it should be, we're working out in that schedule, there should be enough paraeducators to support that, yes.
But that I do want to mention, to finish that up, with that can also be a schedule change. So what we try and do is we try and not have schedule changes. We try and not move paraeducators around. We try and not change the schedule, especially for our students with unique learning needs. But depending upon parent choice and what they were to choose from an in-person versus a distance model, that could change. So.
Dr. Mutz, I have a question about, I believe it was public comment number 14, requested that we move in person to the afternoon, or no, to the morning. No, I'm sorry, to the afternoon. I'm just curious what that would look like as far as nutritional services. And would kids then be expected to eat at school? Or would they be expected to eat at home before they came to school? Any thoughts? I know you didn't propose that, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that proposal.
Nutritional services is being offered for all students. So it doesn't matter what model a parent were to choose, nutritional services will provide a meal to all children. That will continue, that continues through the rest of this school year. So the challenge comes in as we talk about ingress, egress, as we talk about movement of students on campus. If we do the virtual model in the morning, and then the students who are doing in-person instruction in the afternoon, they would be picking up lunch, and if they're going to be consuming lunch on campus, then that provides the next challenge. Our hope and intention was for students to do grab and go, meaning students have their lunch and they leave the school premises to consume their lunch. If we have students consuming lunch, they would not be consuming it in the cafeteria. We are blessed in Southern California with mighty fine weather, which provides a variety of different options. However, it still provides another component we would need to look at if we do have students consuming their grab and go lunch on campus during their school day.
Thank you.
Are there any additional, that would be for any questions, whether it's related to any information I provided, educational services?
So just to sum up what he was asking, what you said, the best way to ensure that the most kids are getting the lunch that they need is the in class in the morning, and they can take it and go, as opposed to hoping they eat at home before they get to school. And because we really can't allow them to eat here, if I hear you right.
If we look at what we have, it produces an additional challenge. Can they consume their grab and go lunch on campus? Yes. However, that is an additional challenge we would have. If that's the direction the board were to go, and we look at a schedule for that, we would have to have specific safety parameters in place for students consuming grab and go lunches on campus.
I think the benefit outweighs the alternative, but that's just me. Dr. William.
I think a grab and go, is feasible. Because, if they do eat lunch on campus, especially the younger ones, now we will be faced with a labor issue. Someone has to clean.
Yeah, and where would they eat? How are you going to ensure that they all stay apart?
True.
Yeah. And you were talking earlier about hopefully minimal teacher changes if this dual model goes into place. Do you have any idea what it might be? Do you have any guess in terms of what percentage?
When I was looking at the data today, and we do expect that, again, this is cursory information. This is the parents saying at this particular moment, based upon what I'm looking at, this is kind of where my feeling is. This isn't a contract with them saying this is what, that would be the next step, would be for them to actually say, for the rest of the school year, I would like for my, and they can even, it's an important point. They can say, my first grade child is going to be on in-person hybrid, but my third and sixth grade children are going to be on distance. Parents would, that's an individual choice per child. If it were to follow the model from the information from this particular survey, we'd be talking about less than 10% of schedule changes. And at some grade levels, it looks like there would be none. So, and when I say schedule changes, that means a change of a teacher. We're not seeing a lot of situations where there'd have to be a change of teacher. We're also not seeing that necessarily at the junior high. However, if we had more numbers go in one direction or the other, then you can see how, for example, if we had 5% more parents choosing to have a hybrid in person, depending upon the numbers in those classes, then that could, again, as that number goes up, they would have potentially a higher chance of having a class or teacher change.
And compared to our original hybrid model,
Far
which-
fewer. It's not even close. It's, again, previously we were talking about a minimum of 65%. We had some situations at some grade levels across our campus where we were having 80%, and that doesn't even touch TK where you only have 3 grades or 3 classes in the school district. So.
Dr. Motz, we've had discussion on the reopening models, but we have not yet talked about a time frame of doing that. I'd like to know where we are as far as teachers' second vaccinations, because it's my understanding that anyone is not safe until roughly a week after that second vaccination. So where does that put us with the safety of our staff? And what are we looking at time frame wise as far as what's the earliest we could possibly accommodate getting kids back on campus?
So very good questions. Our first doses, and again, some of our staff have been already vaccinated with both doses, but the majority of our staff who've been vaccinated through our community vaccination efforts will not receive their second vaccine until next week. So once they have that vaccine, then it's approximately a week is what we're hearing from CDC and also from doctors. So at that point, that's the middle of their spring break. So if you think of it from a time frame, right now we have our board meeting. A week from tomorrow, the teachers will be receiving dose 2. A week from that, they'll be in their spring break. When we return from spring break, that is the last week of March and is also transitioned to the month of April, which means if we were to conform with the current plan that the California or the governor and the California legislature have developed, we would have to, and we were in red, then we would need to initiate that process the week after spring break. My recommendation would be a transitional movement where you would have TK through 2 and special day classes, for example, one day, upper grade at elementary the next day, and then the junior high. But if we are in red, then we would be talking, and we want to meet the criteria set out by the governor, then that opening would take place the week after spring break, previous to April 1st.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then we would begin April 28th, transition, I'm
March.
sorry, March 28th, and then add grades on the 29th
Mhm.
and be in full swing on the 30th.
If you look at the schedule, because again, the proposed schedule that you have shows the Monday is a preparation, social emotional touch-in day for teachers at the elementary. So I'm taking junior high off for just a moment. If you, that Monday would be the first Monday back after spring break. So they wouldn't be seeing students in person on that day. That would be a transitional day. We could do that in a variety of different ways. So the recommendation would be to have that SEL check-in, that Zoom time on that Monday, because it would be a transition day. We would treat that Monday, for example, as exactly as it is on schedule. That Tuesday then would be the TK through 2 and potentially our special education cohorts. Wednesday would be the grades 3 through 6 at elementary, and potentially on that same day, 7 and 8 at the junior high. That Monday doesn't matter as much for the junior high because they're on a separate type of schedule. It's a simultaneous schedule. But it wouldn't make sense for our junior high to be coming back on a simultaneous schedule the day after spring break. So it would make more sense to do that, to launch that later in the week, but previous to April 1st.
And facilities wise, is everything in place to where we could accommodate doing that at this point?
We are on track to be able to have all facilities ready previous to the end of spring break.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, that is only if you're in red. Otherwise, it's just TK through 2.
Thank you for the clarifier. So if we aren't in red, if we're still in purple as we approach that date, then we would only be moving forth with TK through 2 and special education cohorts.
Dr. Moss, I think you said, did I hear you right? Say we have 250 had dose 1, about 250 had dose 1?
I'm going to go back on my number sheet.
Yeah. I could have wrote it down, but
We have more than 250 employees who've had their vaccine dose 1, and
Mhm.
more than 30 have already had dose 2.
there's those two. Now, speaking of HIPAA, do we have any in that category? I know we can't ask, but there are probably some that, for whatever reason, religion or what have you, or just of course with HIPAA, they don't have to disclose if they have. So have we been confronted with that yet, or?
So is your question, do we know that, are there employees who have chosen to not vaccinate?
Yes. Yeah.
Correct. So we do have employees who have self-disclosed that they choose to not vaccinate. They have declined voluntary vaccination through the district.
Mhm.
The district does not require vaccinations for any of our employees, nor do we require proof of vaccination, nor do we require a statement of decline of vaccination. So this is self-disclosure.
Self-disclosure, okay.
Absolutely. And that is because of HIPAA.
HIPAA,
We don't mean it's voluntary.
okay.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll close the discussion. Next item is action item. This is a motion to approve the Mountain View School District in-person and virtual learning dual platform program. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I second.
This would put us in line with SB AB 86. And we'd be governed by basically what the governor is and the legislators put forward, right, at the current point, right?
That is correct. So what you have in front of you would be a plan that would put us in line with the with AB, what was AB 86. That's the law that was passed by the governor and the California legislature. That would be to then put our students up into a parent choice option on a dual platform that would include 100% distance education as well as in-person hybrid education. Again, we've worked with our employee unions and we stand with our unions on preparedness, as well as the necessity to bridge from our current 100% distance model to a more traditional model for the next school year.
And just to be clear, just so there's no misunderstanding, this would approve of this motion would mean that TK through 2 and the special ed would transition back the day, 1 or 2 days after spring break.
That is correct, previous to April 1st.
Okay.
It's just a matter of semantics, but on the next to the last paragraph of the action item, it says the district should complete the final county safety and school guidance checklist necessary to meet the timelines established by the state of California. Should we have that read shall rather than should? And then in the second sentence, it says the district should continue to adjust COVID-19 safety educational response and recovery efforts based on county and state guidelines. Should that not also read shall?
It can. The reason why it is written the way it is that is what was received specific from the state. The state is changing information on a fairly regular basis. So we're trying to maintain as much flexibility because we could potentially receive something from our state or county officials that would alter what the time frame would be or what the parameters would be. Our next step, for example, is to complete, most of our steps have already complete. We do need to do a preparedness checklist that is required by the county. And then we put all of our safety plans and that preparedness checklist together. That's then submitted to the county. That's the final review process. So you'll probably hear in the press of a lot of districts within the West End will be submitting those. That's part of a natural process that had already been developed previously. A lot of our parents and many of you have also looked at the state website that lists our preparedness and movement forward. In the future, that's going to indicate our status based upon what the board chooses tonight, as well as that specific plan. And then the final portion was the last portion.
The continues to adjust COVID-19 safety, educational response and recovery efforts based on county and state regulation.
Correct. So what we are finding is that, for example, I will give the example of PPE. PPE and how we're supposed to use our personal protective equipment changes on a regular basis. Today, the CDC issued information that was then also released by the state of California on what happens in a situation in which two adults who both received dose 2 vaccines 1 week post, if they are in a situation, are they masked? What is the requirements for that? We anticipate several more of those shifts to occur over the coming weeks and certainly over the next month in order to accommodate the various levels that the state goes through. We haven't experienced, for example, large counties being in something other than deep purple or purple. So as we head towards orange and eventually towards yellow, our PPE requirements and what those are going to look like are going to alter and change, and we need to be responsive to those.
Hearing your response, I am very comfortable with those words as stated.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I have one final question, Dr. Moss. You know, and so I'm sorry. This situation we're in caught everybody off guard. What are we doing for the next school board? Heaven forbid this happen again, but it happens. What are we doing now to prepare for the next school board to, if this should happen? What are we doing? Are we laying
Yeah, I'm not
framework?
sure, and I'm not trying to cut you off, but the motion on the floor is
Oh.
for approval of this,
I'm sorry.
this program.
Okay.
However, we got public comment coming up, your personal comment coming up, so if you could say it there.
Okay.
Just try to keep us on track on the motion.
Okay. Sorry about
So,
that.
I'm not shutting you down.
No problem.
You can talk in a second. So I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstain? Okay. Thank you. Yeah, James, I'll let you talk all you want on that in a
Okay,
second.
no problem. No
Okay.
problem.
Next item is certification of the second interim financial report.
Good evening. I will attempt.
Hold it, you have to have a motion. Do I have a motion to approve the positive certification of the second interim report for?
I'll make
21?
that motion.
Was that from? Yeah, okay, thank you. Bill.
All right. I will try and keep this under 2 hours.
Well, you can talk for 2 hours if you want, Stephen, but you'll be talking to an empty room. I'll adjourn it before then.
Perfect. So second interim looks a little different than the first interim. We had some information that we thought was coming out at first, that we kind of knew at first interim, but wasn't technically released until we were preparing for second interim. So at first interim, we had prepared our projections on a 0% COLA for all 3 years. Since then, the governor has proposed what he's calling a super COLA next year at 3.84%. So that's a recovery of the COLA for the 2021 year. And then the COLA projected for the 21-22 year, and then in the 22-23 fiscal year, a 1.28% COLA. However, in the current year, state deferrals are remaining, and therefore we are still going to see some cash flow issues come towards May, which means that in late April, early May, the district is going to have to do some interfund borrowing to pay to keep cash reserves where they need to be to process payroll and other expenditures. We are based on the current projections of how the state will be funding dollars and their repayment plan of the deferrals. We should fully repay ourselves by December of 2021. So we won't have to float cash too long between ourselves, but we already have taken earlier last year, and we'll take another one again in the spring for interfund borrowing. So that part is taken care of, and it's just a matter of a couple of journal entries on my end and giving that to the county to prepare those to make sure that we can meet our general fund expenditures. Our deficit spending, we are still seeing a deficit spending in all 3 fiscal years. In the current fiscal year, our deficit spending is slightly increased. Part of that is due to the fact that our unduplicated, and this is an issue across the state, our unduplicated and numbers dropped significantly. We dropped about, we were averaging about 62%, and we dropped down to just over 55%. So it was a pretty significant drop, which means that our supplemental and concentration dollars also saw a reduction in funding. Our goal will be again to really get the word out as we go into the fall for our family members and our community members to complete the school nutrition meal applications, even if they don't qualify, because as many as we can get, some may qualify that they didn't think they qualified, and that is where a large portion of our unduplicated numbers come from. So there'll be a big, we'll have a big push again in the fall to try and work, get those numbers back up. There's some rumblings, but nothing for sure yet too, of because of how big of an issue this is, that the state may be looking at some corrections, and there's some talk of hold harmless because they realize this is an issue, but it's not moved very far along. And so I am not counting on that to happen, but if it did happen, it would be very convenient and nice. The third year out, we are going to still at that point have to, originally at first interim, we were gonna have to borrow from Fund 14 and our subsequent years, so next year. Because of the additional COLAs, we are showing we would need to borrow about 400,000 from Fund 14 in the third year out. A caveat on that is that the COLAs used are School Services California, who the county recommends that we use as our projections when it comes to COLAs. Their COLAs are a lot lower than what the state Department of Finance has projected. And so I am not too concerned at this point about the third year out. I think if we, I think we'll probably see that disappear if all things kind of stay the way they are as of right now. I think the COLAs will actually be higher in that third year, but that's just my personal opinion. Again, our greatest contribution to deficit spending is salary costs. Salary costs for the district are over 85%. And then again, the reduction, or rather a lack of sufficient revenue growth. So even in good years, the COLA is not enough to meet our growing costs, especially when you factor in STRS and PERS increases year over year. We, in addition to our current year, we did get approved for our ADA growth. It's not much, and they haven't told us how we're going to get funded on that, so it hasn't been built into the budget. But we will get a small amount of ADA growth that was budgeted last year during the budget time. And with that, we are actually about 20 ADA over where we budgeted, which is good going into next year. If those numbers continue, we'll see a positive outcome of that in the 21-22 fiscal year. Jumping down, we kind of talked about really quickly STRS and PERS. The 22-23 year is where we're also going to see some of those issues, because STRS is going to move from 15.92 to 18% per employee, and PERS employees are going to move from 23 to 26.3. So some of the dollars that are provided by the state to offset some of those costs, those will go away, and we'll fill the full growth of the contributions on the district's end. And this last bullet is just some COVID funding information. In the 2021 fiscal year, the district received 1.88 million, used primarily for one-to-one devices, remote access, technology upgrades in the classroom and across the district to ensure that our virtual environments were going as smoothly as possible, sanitizing the equipment, PPE, and then community access to meals as well. For the next school year, based on current projections on how the most recent information from the state has come out, School Services has projected that the district will actually receive about 2.46 million directed towards in-person instruction and expanded learning opportunities for students. And I didn't write it on here, but we are actually no longer certifying qualified. And we did have to, at second interim last year, we certified qualified, and first interim qualified. We are certifying or my recommendation is to certify positive, meaning that we at this current time are expected to meet 3 years of our fiscal responsibilities. So good news for us. Yay.
Stephen, am I correct in assuming that in the assumptions used for a positive certification, employee furloughs were not included?
That is correct. We actually, in making the certification, I actually increased some of our site budgets back to more focused on a kind of a 1920 pre-pandemic level. We did see some, this year we had to reduce some of the site budgets. And so in that third year, second year out and third year out, we started to see an increase of our site budgets as well. And without a reduction in, including without a reduction in salary cost or furloughs.
That's great news. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yes.
Stephen, your 3 At that time, we'll have the construction of a new school. What considerations would it put into place for new personnel?
We believe that the school will open at almost full capacity, so we're essentially projecting that our ADA will also increase by about 250, which we saw those revenue projections. So we in talking with, and these could change based on attrition through all of our school sites, or I guess technically the 3 elementaries, that we will be able to staff the teachers and probably would need to hire 10 to 14 additional FTE to fully staff all of our sites on an elementary level, including an additional principal for the 4 school site. I mean, those have been factored into the budget in the 3rd year out as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Excellent job, Stephen.
Thank you.
We really appreciate all of the knowledge that you bring to this department and this function. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
I have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Next, do I have a motion to approve proposal to bargain with Mountain View School District from the Associated Mountain View Teachers for 20 to 21?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
second that.
Jeremy?
Yes, this came to you as an action item, or excuse me, an information item last month. This is the action item to approve to open negotiations between Mountain View School District and AMBT for the 2020-21 school year. All articles are in play in this negotiation session.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay, next is the flip proposal. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that
proposal?
motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Same thing, just a flip, right?
You got it.
Okay, any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Next, I have a motion to approve the multi-prime contracts to identify contracts for services detailed in the bid documents totaling 27+ million. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Also want to thank you for listing the location for the request from some of the board members last time. Thank you for responding to that. I like it that there's nobody out of state and there's very few people outside the San Bernardino Riverside County area. And some of them are just barely over the border. Question, I'm sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
This is the moment we've been, I think, waiting for what, the last 15 years, an actual bid to build a new school. So you have before you all 21 categories of bids that were placed for the construction of Parkview Elementary. As you noted, you have the individual contractors there next to their category for which they'll be servicing the district. All are within Riverside and San Bernardino County, 2 in Orange County, 1 in LA County. So a great group of local contractors servicing our district. We're really excited about that. Even more exciting was this bid came in approximately $3 million below estimate. And so that's a credit to our construction management firm who did an excellent job giving us a midline estimate, but also created a very competitive bidding process.
Questions?
I have a comment, please.
Sure.
Well, I have to say thank you very much because I'm looking at the various contractors on the list. We're creating jobs. These are tens of millions of dollars that we're putting back into our economy. And so I have to applaud your department for all the work that you've done and to the Board of Education for keeping all these jobs local. So thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely.
I will caution with low bids come potential changes. So I expect to stay on top of that one.
You know me, Ron. I hate change orders.
Yeah, you do now.
Always have.
Yeah. Big questions. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motions go so much quicker after 9, don't they?
I just have no intention of speaking to an empty room.
All
So
right. That motion to approve resolution 2021, 2021-08 Beyond Bond Authority Acknowledgement.
I'll make the motion.
Jeremy,
Yes, what you have before you is a resolution that the California state allocation are entering into an application process for school funding. The school allocation board is what, through its school facilities program, is what provides funding to districts for schools. This resolution is an acknowledgement that that state allocation board is actually beyond its bond authority, which means it has no money to offer schools for school construction or modernization. The board must pass a resolution recognizing those various items, such as the school facility bond authority is currently exhausted. The state of California is not obligated to provide funding for projects. Acceptance of an application does not provide a guarantee for future state funding. Future state bond measures for the school facility program may not provide funding for the district applications, and the future state school facility programs may be substantially different than they have been in the past. And that commencing with pre-construction or construction activities, as the district has been doing, is at the district's discretion. So it's saying that at this time, the state has no intention to fund our application, and we have to recognize that publicly before we submit it. And this resolution is a requirement for us to be able to submit that application. The hope is, and the plan is that down the road, we will receive funding for this at a future date, which will then be applied towards future school construction.
thank you. Questions? Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Information items, enrollment report, Dr. Moss.
So we are at 610 at Creekview, Mountain View 557, Ranch View 832, Grace Yoakley 641 for a total of 2640. We continue to add new students, and we are currently over our projections from this time last year. Interdistrict permits are up this reporting period. The primary reason for parents requesting interdistrict transfers: number one, dual immersion programs, Mandarin; two, dual immersion programs, Spanish; three, employment; four, childcare.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Staff student attendance.
All sites are reporting 91% year to date, which is better than most flu years for this time period. And sites are reporting 93% or better for the month of February, which is a substantial improvement over other years. So we're tracking in a good direction there.
Yeah, the variances are right, definitely positive for us as opposed to some
Correct.
years.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Financial statement, Stephen.
This is the financials through 2/28. There's nothing really major to note, especially since we just went over second interim. But if there are any questions, I can answer those now.
Are there any questions for Stephen? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is Lcap update. Karen?
Good evening. At this point in the Lcap timeframe, we are working on Lcap surveys and getting information back from our staff and our parents. You do have a handout that was provided to you. For some of you, it might be in front of your name tag. But the data that you have, or I should say the results that you have, it shows the quantity of responses that we receive from staff and parents, and then it's disaggregated out for you as well. And then the 5 areas that we surveyed on were aligned to our California Schools dashboard and our Lcap goals. And the results are color coded. So you'll be able to see that the blue is our staff responses, and then the red is our parent responses, and then the green is an average score. They are ranked. So the bullets, you can see all the choices that were on the survey, and the bullets at the top were our highest responses, with the bullets on the bottom being our lowest responses.
Very good survey, very complete. Always interesting to see parents' perspective versus staff perspective. I noticed that, gladly noticed that the staff is very, very engaged in the academic excellence.
I just have one question. How was the service disseminated out to the parents?
It's especially this year, it's an fully electronic survey.
Okay.
So we did send out notification in a variety of formats and really encouraged participation. We do take this survey very seriously, and we do want to have the highest rates we can get because this is what drives our local control plan. And a local control plan is just that. It's a plan that is created by our local community and with the values and the priorities that are important within our community. And so this is very important for us. We take it very seriously.
Thank you, Karen. Great job.
Thank you.
To you and your team. Next item is 2021 summer facility projects. Would that be also smoothing out Turner with all the metal plates in it?
Unfortunately, that's the city's job and will probably take long past summer to complete. Yes, what you have before you is an information item. We're just addressing a couple of potential summer projects. We are excited to build a new school, but we also have a duty to maintain our existing schools. These are two what we would consider very major projects. The Grace Oakley Junior High School main building roof has been an ongoing problem for quite some time. We have had one section of it in serious need of repair. And so this estimate for $300,000 is to replace a large section of that roof, the northeast corridor, which we refer to as the 7th grade hallway. It would get a completely new roof with a extensive warranty, and it's a great product. We did some extensive roof walks.
It's just that section, it's not the entire roof.
Just that section. To reduce, to completely
understand.
redo the entire roof would be about $1.5 million. So we're taking it one bite at a
But the
time.
rest of the roof is okay.
Yes, and doing some repairs in other portions of the roof, a substantial square footage of roof here and there. But in order to address the main problem area, this would be it. And then we would look at a future date to do another section and so kind of part it together. And we've worked with the architects to utilize a product that will allow us to do that. And because Grace Oakley was built in sections, it lends itself to that. The other project is the blacktop asphalt replacement at Creekview. This is the southeast portion of the playground, back in the upper grade portion. This has been repaired a number of times. It is likely due to incorrect installation to begin with. The bed ground wasn't properly prepared and packed. There's no curbing to the south side, which is a bit of a slope. And what we've seen is large fissures throughout it open up, spread 5 or 6 inches. We've come in and patched them. It's done it again. This is the 3rd time coming back. This would be a complete tear out and replacement of that asphalt area, thus no longer having a problem with it in the future.
Is there any hazard for the children out there playing?
On the blacktop,
Yeah.
it can be, yes. There's some serious trip hazards, which really has brought it to our attention. It was localized to some certain areas, but has begun to spread all throughout to where it is a dangerous area for them to play. And so the goal would be to have this replaced by summer. And since we're looking at models where we're currently, if we brought students back, we're not going to have recess, we're not going to be having lunches. This lends itself as a perfect timeline for us to address this playground issue.
All right, thank you for addressing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good question. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
Mountain View School District school information, you haven't been here for a long time, so I'm going to call on you. Let's start with Ranch View.
Good evening, everyone. At Ranch View this month, we highlighted famous African Americans. One of the traditions that happens at Ranch View, I'm new to it this year, but several students at Ranch View highlighted famous African Americans through our virtual living wax museum for the famous American biography. Students dressed up and read about their famous Americans, such as Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, Frederick Douglass, Rosa Parks, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, Jackie Robinson, Jesse Owens, and Harriet Tubman. Thank you.
Thank you. Creekview. You have to ask the technical people. I think there was a mic floating around. I'll make sure the camera sees you.
So we obviously last week had the Cat in the Hat
at our school. And I was able to read stories to all the lower grade classes while the cat misbehaved next to me the whole time. So that was amazing. And as one of the students said, it's really the real Cat in the Hat. So that was a pleasure. I've also had an opportunity to go into a lot of the classes. I was able to cover a class for about an hour today, which was kindergarten class. And all I have to say is God bless kindergarten teachers. Because there wasn't, I asked a question and they all unmuted at the same time and answered in general my question, and I couldn't get them muted fast enough to get control back of the classroom. So it is a tremendous learning opportunity. We're working really hard to get the campus cleaned up and ready for the situation where we actually have kids on campus, and we are so excited to have them step on the campus again. So optimism reigns. Last year at this time, it was very hard to be optimistic. And now it feels like we've gone full circle, and I applaud all of you for everything you did today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Judith? All right, Mountain View.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to just say that we closed out the month of February at Mountain View, celebrating African Americans' contributions to our society. And I'd like to share just two of the many activities that took place among our students with teachers. I'll share one of our primary classes, Mrs. Rodriguez's first grade class. They did a phenomenal job using the book, Have You Thanked an Inventor Today? And that's a book written by Patrice McLaurin. And this teacher did a phenomenal job taking that book, opening up rich discussions with her students and having them do research on each one of the individuals that they studied, the inventions of African Americans that they have invented, and some of the activities where they did a scavenger hunt in their home, finding inventions that African Americans invented and that they are currently using today. So I thought that was a great opportunity for our primary students. And then they concluded that activity with writing I can do a statement that was inspired by their research. And then our upper grade with Miss Garrett's class, they did a phenomenal job. They also did research on African-American individuals and their contributions. And they did a beautiful job sharing a PowerPoint presentation, each student. And that was a week of sharing. And that was a phenomenal job with Miss Garrett's upper grade students. We then went into March celebrating and sharing the love of reading with our students with Read Across America. And many of our team members did read alouds to various classes, and we're currently still engaged in those read alouds. So that was a great start of March. I'd like to just real quickly do some quick shout outs. Our team at Mountain View is doing a phenomenal job, from our proctors who are working beyond their scope of duty to help us ready our classrooms, welcoming our educational team and students. Each classroom has been touched by their amazing hands to ensure the safety protocols have been adhered to with respect to sanitizing all touchable surfaces. Also, our amazing EL para educators who have been preparing for the last month to begin the LPAC testing. And finally, they are working diligently to administer this test to our students remotely. And trust me, I sat in with them Friday. It is a feat. Believe me, it's a feat. And I do give them real big shout outs for what they have to do remotely. It is amazing. It is amazing to see what they had to do to prepare it. All the calibrations they had to do, all the training, and then to implement it was another big feat. So shout out to them on that one. Our amazing PTO for their efforts this year for staying the course, as Dr. Moss always says to us. They are hosting another Let Us Join Together as a school to help support our local businesses and ultimately help support our school. Please join us for dinner at Casa Sanchez next Tuesday, March 16th, from 5 to 10 p.m. This is just a to-go orders only, so they will not be eating in, but if you're so inclined, please join us there. The details are provided on our school website and Peach Jar. And last but not least, a huge shout out to all of our students that continue to push forward in this virtual world. We honored many of our students as we closed out the second trimester of the school year with Citizen of the Month, Academic Eagle of the Month, and of course, our honor roll students were acknowledged in their great accomplishments. So I just want to give those shout outs because I feel it's very important in these challenging times that we acknowledge the efforts that everyone has contributed to making our education for our students even possible. And thank you to all of you tonight, and Dr. Moss, great job. And must say, I'm proud to be a part of a great district as Mountain View School District.
And we're proud to have you. Any questions before you run off? Any questions? No? All right. Now, Grace Shockley, I understand all of our athletic teams are undefeated.
Champions through and through. Another great year. Good evening, all. I will keep it brief. It's been a long evening. GYS has been very busy this past of our board members on site, board member Randall Siniceros and also board member Mike Sweeney. It was great to have the opportunity to walk our campus and speak to you about our site updates and our future plans. So we thank you for sharing part of your day with us. Later on in the month, our leadership class under the direction of Rhonda Wilson hosted a virtual Valentine Day event, which was attended by approximately 238 of our students and many staff members. Students had the opportunity to attend a secured breakout room that was proctored and monitored by our staff. And these breakout rooms included dancing and trivia challenges, scavenger hunts, and even lunch with staff and friends. So I think that everyone attended had a really great time. Mrs. Reyes and I just completed our virtual presentations for both our incoming 7th grade students and our future 8th grade students. These presentations were in regard to campus expectations and some changes in scheduling for the next school year. We are in the process of finalizing our master schedule and staffing for next year. So all things are looking good on that front, especially with our increasing enrollment. So that's always good news. Today was the first day of 4th quarter. So this is great news for parents. Report cards will be sent out this Friday. And that will be available to you through your parent view and your student view portal by 2:45 this Friday. So it's always a hot topic in homes. I'd like to remind the community of our daily office hours for our teachers, also our virtual club opportunities, and we also have our lunch bunch sessions, which are held by Mrs. Hamamoto, our site behavioral therapist. And finally, we are excited to share that our plans are underway for our 8th grade promotion event. So as soon as we receive more clarity on health and safety protocols and with the turn of events this evening, we are excited to be able to share with our community our upcoming events.
How are the clubs doing? I saw them all listed on your printout. Are they doing well?
They're
for the most
widely
part?
attended. They are held consistently throughout the month. It's every Friday we have a club. So between Bible Club, GSA, Girl Talk, and our lunch bunch, we have some great attendance.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Pearson, first of all, say thank you very much for welcoming Mr. Sweeney and myself onto campus and showcasing a lot of things that you're doing out there. I know there's a lot of painting projects going on. There's a new mural in the NPR room. And then also there's some fantastic news coming out of your school. A young lady, Kayla, congratulations to her on being selected to represent your family, Grace Shockley School and Mountain View School District by being a member of the All Southern California Honor Group Band. That's huge. Kayla goes on to say that she plays alto saxophone and she wants to wish a special thank you to Mrs. Greenwood and to all those who support her. So congratulations to Kayla on reaching that achievement.
I will share that with her. Thank you.
Bring that up. Very good. Board comments. James, I owe you some time, so it's up. do you have any comments? Microphone.
I was asking, we learn from our mistakes and things we did, because this COVID caught entire nation, entire world actually off guard. And so for the next school board, hopefully we won't have to go through this again, but you never know. What are we going to do? I'll make a recommendation that we do some type of case study, so we can leave something behind for the next, if it should happen again, to show our best practices, show what we did as a school board to get through if it should happen again. And so just show some best practices. So we did this, we did this, we did this. So, because as we all know, when it happened in March last year, we came unprepared. We were totally unprepared. But this time we need to be, those school board members that are going to be following us have some type of battle plan. Some type of battle plan to do. And I think that would be our legacy, to have a battle plan for the next school board.
Yeah, I don't normally comment on public comment, on boards, but that's a good idea. I know that Randall has proposed some potential board training going down the road, so things like this could fit in down the road. And we definitely should be, the more knowledge we are, the better we are. So anyway, anything more? No. Okay, Mike?
I joined Randall Cunningham or Seniceros in touring, I believe, 3 of our school sites before we actually kind of ran out of gas. It was a lot of walking that we haven't done in a while, but some exciting things going on. We spoke to teachers, to administrators. Unfortunately, there were no kids on campus, but there are a lot of good things still going on in our district, and they always continue to go on. Secondly, I did read to 3 classes on Read Across America Day. And it was probably the highlight of my month. Just seeing all those kids' faces. I was able to have some interaction with kids on Zoom. It was just amazing. So any other needs or any other invitations will be gladly accepted. Mr. Seniceros, last meeting highlighted a couple of people, and he suggested that we look to recognize those who do an outstanding job in our community. Randall, I thank you for that. And there are a couple of people in the district office I would like to acknowledge at this time. First being Skip Elder. Skip, thank you so much for accumulating all the data through your state surveys and all the things that you do that go pretty much unnoticed, but they make our jobs a heck of a lot easier. And Mrs. Sullivan, you are a beacon. Most people probably are not aware that most of this information on our desk you put together. It's a thankless job that you have, and you do it very, very well. So thank you for all your efforts. They too make our jobs much easier.
I also got to do Read Across America with 5 different classes, TK, 3rd grade, and 3 4th grade classes. And it was amazing. It was really fun just to see the interaction, and got all 5 classes really interacting. And it was just a lot of fun. And so I also want to take a moment and just tell, if there's any parents still watching for some reason, I want to just say thank you for speaking out on behalf of your kids. If you don't communicate with us, we don't know how you feel and how they feel. And so I want to say thank you for that. We appreciate that. We value that. And I also want to share my appreciation for these teachers. As we go into this dual model, we know this is another wrench that's thrown in. And we deeply, deeply appreciate the work that everybody from the top on down just continues to do. So thank you very much. And lastly, on a personal note, Kayla, the 8th grader who plays alto sax, was mentioned. She is actually working with my son, who is learning the alto sax in 6th grade, and as a mentor. And so thank you, Kayla, for being awesome. And thank you, Ms. Greenwood, for all you're doing for all of the students, 5th and 6th grade included in that. So thank you.
One more mention, going back to February 12th, when we visit the schools, I have to thank Vicky Lauer. She was my chaperone as we ventured out to the various campuses. She kept us in line. So that was a good thing. And she kept us on schedule. We did our very best. A lot of great things going on in our schools. Also, mad props, to our superintendent, to Jeremy. Many of us got vaccinated at the Montclair Hospital. I think it's very important that the Board of Education send out a letter of appreciation for their thanks and their contributions, because that was just a historic day. I feel like I've been liberated getting my first vaccination shot. So thank you very much, sir, and for all those who made that possible. I truly appreciate you. I know I'm missing something here. Too many notes. For all the parents who made public comment, we hear you, we're listening. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot of information that's very fluid. We can go from purple to red to yellow, all within a matter of just a few weeks. Thank you for your comments. Roseanne, Deborah, Crystal, Stephen, Nick, Brenda, and a few other yous have made comment who spent the extra time to reach out to the board and to present your comments, your concerns, and recommendations. We'll do our best to continue to report out everything that we're trying to accomplish and ensure that you have safe schools. So thank you for attending.
I would like to thank our tech team here tonight. We will continue to offer live stream as we go through the rest of this school year, even though as we approach red, hopefully our next board meeting, though will be here at the Jill Coulter Memorial Auditorium, but we're hoping to be able to have some of our public back here with us. But we will continue even with that, with our live stream event, so that we have that option available for all of our community. But thank you to our tech team, everyone who's part of that. I know it's a huge endeavor, and I couldn't even begin to understand what all of you're doing. So thank you. I also want to thank our district and union leadership for their work, vision, and guidance in the development of plans to reopen our schools to in-person learning. This is not an easy task. Again, there are many moving pieces, and you are all phenomenal at everything that you do. And I appreciate your guidance and your dedication to optimal learning environments for students, even in the most challenging and difficult of times. I would like to thank our teachers and principals for the work that you did in Black History Month. I learned so much. Every year I learn something new, but I want to thank you for the work that you did. I was able to jump into the Living Wax Museum over at Ranch View and learned about a variety of different characters, but I appreciated what you put into your newsletters and also the little tidbits that teachers sent over to me about what they do, how they share contributions in American history and American society by Black individuals. So I want to thank everyone for that. It is Women's History Month. I know that teachers have already started sending me things over for that, but I want to mention on International Women's Day, we have an incredibly dedicated, talented, and gifted group of women in Mountain View School District in every potential role in the district, whether it is from nutritional services to our para educators, to our teaching staff, to our administrators. I just want to thank you for the work that you do and the vision that you have had to be role models to countless girls throughout the time that you have worked in Mountain View School District and all that you will continue to do. Thank you for being role models. It's important in our society and it's important in our world. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to thank everyone in the district, all the parents' comments, and especially the board for professionalism they've shown, and it's a great job. Next item is consent agenda. Unless trustees, superintendent, public has a question concerning a particular item and asks it be withdrawn from the consent agenda, items that should be considered routine in nature are approved at one time by the governing board. Is there any item that anybody wishes to have withdrawn? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Chris? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? We have a closed session item? Okay, so we'll have a closed session in the same room as before? Okay. Other than that, we will adjourn the regular session. Next meeting will be on 7 PM, Monday, April 12th, right here in the auditorium. So have a good night, stay safe.